So what I'm basically describing here is tools that in a very short amount of time will allow you to significantly increase your focus and concentration abilities. Today's episode is going to give you tools that you can apply in your daily life. Most all of them are completely zero cost, and those tools will allow you to tap into the neurochemistry and the neural circuits within your brain and body that peer-reviewed science has reliably shown can significantly improve your focus and concentration abilities. What I want you to imagine is an arrow. And an arrow, of course, has an arrowhead, and it has the shaft of that arrow. And in the context of the neuroscience of focus and concentration, the neurochemical system that really represents the shaft of that arrow, right, the straight line, is epinephrine, also called adrenaline. Epinephrine/adrenaline are released within your brain from a little location, a little cluster of neurons called locus ceruleus, but you do not need to remember that name, and from your body from the adrenal glands. And the release of epinephrine from those two locations overall increases energy. It increases alertness. It does not alone increase focus. One of the most important things to build and maintain your focus and concentration is to optimize your sleeping behavior. That is to get enough quality sleep, I would say 80% of the nights of your life. Not everyone can get optimal sleep 100% of the nights of their life. Nobody, truly nobody achieves that. However, sleep has been shown to relate to cognitive performance, physical performance, hormone output, and so many other things, including immune system function. What we can reliably say is that sleep modulates just about every process in your brain and body. So you have to get great sleep. There is simply no tool that's going to allow you to overcome chronic sleep deprivation and allow you to remain focused, which is that 40 hertz binaural beats have been shown in a number of peer-reviewed studies to increase focus and concentration. And if you'd like to access 40 hertz binaural beats in order to improve your focus and concentration, you can do that. You can actually get it at zero cost. You can go into the App Store, for instance, the Apple App Store. This is also available for Android phone. There's an app called Brainwave, and you can go there, you can dial in 40 hertz, and it'll play these binaural beats. It's been shown in multiple quality peer-reviewed studies that playing a pattern of sound waves to one ear, do-do-do-do-do, and the other ear, which is slightly offset in frequency, meaning not quite the same frequency, so more like do-do-do-do, that combination of frequencies played to the different ears actually get integrated within deep brain centers and can increase focus and concentration in part by increasing levels of the neurochemical dopamine and acetylcholine, which we talked about a little bit earlier in this arrow model of focus.
Please remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified when we bring out a new video.
A lot of people are challenged with getting into a mode of focus. None of us, however, should be expected to just sit down and drop directly into a state of focus. I think that's completely an unfair request of ourselves. I mean, for instance, you wouldn't expect yourself to go out on the track or go out for a run and not warm up. You might jog for a few minutes or even walk before you would jog and then jog before you would run, right? I would hope you would do that. And if you're doing resistance training, I doubt that you go over and load up the bar or the machine with the maximum amount of weight that you can move and then just drop right into that. You always do a warm up. And I think it's very important to understand mental work, focus, and concentration as requiring that warm up. A question I often get is, how long should I try to focus? Our brain and body operate within that day, or within each and every day, I should say, with 90-minute ultradian cycles. So my suggestion would be, anytime you're going to sit down and try and focus, you're going to try and do a focused bout of physical exercise or skill learning or musical learning, or maybe you're even just having a conversation. Maybe you're a therapist or you're attending therapy or a class. How long should it be? And the ideal duration is about 90 minutes. Not exactly 90 minutes, but we can reliably say 90 minutes or less. Okay, it doesn't have to be the full 90 minutes, but trying to push yourself to be able to drop into 2 hours of focus or 3 hours of focus while possible is not really in line with what we know about the underlying biology. Everything from our sleep states, or the different stages of sleep, and our waking states is divided into these 90-minute cycles, or so-called ultradian cycles. So what I like to do is set a timer for 90 minutes. I acknowledge and accept the fact that under most conditions, unless I'm really pressed for a deadline and I'm optimally caffeinated, etc., the first 5 to 10 minutes of that 90 minutes are a transition time. It's like the warm up for focus, but I do include it in that 90 minutes. And then I really try and drop into doing focused mental work or learning of some sort. Again, this could be physical as well, motor skill learning. Your ability to focus, and in fact, your ability of neurons to encode specific information in your environment, that is, to represent what's out there in the world, is actually related to your blood glucose level. But there's a beautiful study that was published in Neuron not long ago that showed that the tuning, that is, the precision with which neurons in the brain represent things in our environment, is actually much greater when there is sufficient glucose in the brain. Translated into English, this means that when we are fasted or when our blood glucose is very low, we aren't able to perceive and think about things as clearly. But one of the things that you hear very often is that some people like being fasted because they like the clarity of mind that it provides. Here's the situation. Neurons, unless you're in a ketogenic diet, really thrive on glucose. They love glucose. And as I mentioned before, your ability to think and perceive things is actually enhanced by having sufficient glucose in your bloodstream. So why would it be that some people experience a heightened state of mental clarity when they are fasted? I've certainly experienced that before. However, if we have any food, if we have enough of it, that is, if our gut is full, it diverts blood to our gut and we become sleepy and we can't focus as well. So a lot of people really like fasting in the state of being fasted for focus and concentration because they don't have as much of that parasympathetic activation. They're just not as sleepy. And in fact, under those conditions, half as much caffeine will give you just as much lift as twice as much caffeine will give you on a full belly of pasta. And that's just the way that caffeine interacts with blood glucose. Which foods can increase focus? In the episode on ADHD that I did, I touched on this quite a bit as it relates to elimination diets. There's a whole industry and a ton of interest for obvious reasons into what sorts of things kids and adults should and shouldn't eat in order to reduce symptoms of ADHD. I think that the sum total of those data point to the fact that reducing simple sugar intake and certainly highly processed foods, so ice cream, candy, chips, etc., those sorts of things really does seem to improve symptoms of ADHD in both children and adults. But once you move past that and you start to say, well, which foods can improve concentration and focus? Well, foods that, for instance, include a lot of tyrosine, which is a precursor to dopamine, and now you know why dopamine is important in this context, are certainly going to increase concentration and focus. So things like Parmesan cheese, certain meats, certain nuts, you can look up which foods contain high amounts of tyrosine. There are also some fruits and vegetables that include higher amounts of tyrosine. There are other ways to increase epinephrine in the brain and body besides caffeine or other stimulants. And in fact, that has been studied. There's an excellent study that was carried out not that long ago on how stress itself can increase focus and concentration. Most people think of stress as impairing our ability to focus, but that's actually not true. When we are stressed, it involves the deployment, the release of adrenaline, epinephrine. One practice that is very effective at allowing you to focus better than you would otherwise under conditions of sleep deprivation is so-called non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. This is also referred to sometimes as yoga nidra. Yoga nidra actually means yoga sleep. Yoga nidra is a practice of lying down for about 10 to 30, sometimes even as long as 60 minutes. You listen to a script. It's an audio script that takes you through a progressive deep relaxation. It involves a body scan, some long exhale breathing. It is very restorative in the sense that one tends to emerge from yoga nidra or NSDR feeling greatly refreshed compared to how you felt prior to it. Now, there's another set of behavioral tools that can really help enhance one's ability to focus, and those are visual-based tools. In fact, the tools I'm about to describe are actually being employed in a number of schools in China and elsewhere in order to teach children to focus better and for longer periods of time. The key principle here is that much of our cognitive focus, our ability to think about something in a very specific way and stay focused on it, to read or to follow a line of conversation or math or music, etc., is going to be directed by our visual system. Our visual system has two forms of attention and focus. One is overt focus, which is very straightforward. If I'm looking at the tip of my pen, for those of you listening right now, I'm looking at the tip of my pen. That's overt focus. I'm focusing on it with my eyes. And of course, the rest of my brain then will follow and start to analyze the details of what I'm seeing, the contours of the pen, etc. So what is a practice that has been studied in various laboratories and that's being employed in various schools is to have children or adults visually focus on one location for a given period of time. How long? Anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. And believe it or not, 3 minutes is a long time to maintain visual focus at one location. So if you're going to incorporate this practice, what you would want to do is pick a location. It could be on a wall, it could be on your computer in front of you, although I would encourage it to not be the contents of your computer screen. You might just want to blank your screen. You might want to put a piece of paper with a crosshatch there, any sort of visual target, or you can imagine a visual target, and then focus your visual attention on that target and try to breathe normally, try and stay relaxed, and certainly allow yourself to blink so that your eyes don't dry out. This is not a test of how long you can go without blinking. By focusing on that particular location and by forcing yourself to refocus on that location, anytime your gaze, your vision drifts from that location, you are encouraging the circuits for focus to get better at focusing for longer and longer and at refocusing when your focus drifts off of that location. I don't want to give the impression that I combine every tool that I've talked about today for a given work bout. I mean, that would be pretty wild too. Take a cold shower, pop an L-tyrosine, take an alpha GPC, drink 2 espresso, listen to binaural beats. That to me seems like a very inefficient way to go about life. In fact, I make it a point to try and use tools to increase my ability to concentrate and focus, but not to combine more than 2 or 3 of them at any one time. And when I say 2 or 3, what I mean is I will use supplements like alpha GPC, L-tyrosine, and caffeine together before certain work bouts. I might use the visual practice of focusing on a given location for a minute before I begin that work bout. I might combine those. Then another time, I might take a cold shower prior to doing some work. Other days, I confess, I've slept very well, or my enthusiasm about what I'm about to work on is such that I don't require any of these tools. Again, there's no requirement, there's no pressure to use any of these tools, behavioral, supplement-based, or otherwise. It's simply a matter of using the tools that are going to allow you to achieve the states you want to achieve and to improve your ability to go into those states without any help at all.
Please remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified when we bring out a new video.